Hey everyone, it's Kai.
And Lafayette, and this is
The Theory of Living. Thanks for tuning in. We're able to bring you this episode thanks to our Patreon members.
Patreon is a subscription-based platform where people can provide support for content creators like us.
Thanks to our Patreon members and supporters, we're able to provide free content on the podcast and weekly episodes.
By being a Patreon member, you'll have access to our entire podcast library, full video and audio episodes, along with much more.
If you like this episode and you feel it adds value to your life,
or you hate it,
please subscribe on Patreon and or leave your review on Apple Podcast.
And don't forget to mention it to your friends over your next beer. Truly, thank you again, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Members and Spotify listeners,
They started, by the way. Yeah.
Our first time having a guest on the show.
Yeah, man.
Sweet 16.
Sweet 16.
As he said. I wanted to say it
episode.
first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
16th episode, and we have Josh Robin joining us today all the way from Troy, New York. What, Troy?
Troy.
Where him and I first became friends. It's been a few years now. We've known each other for a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exciting to have you here.
Yeah. Dude, it's our friendship is a very, very cool, very like special and dear thing to me.
Yeah.
Because like friends, they, like people come into each other's lives at different times, and some like more, like I keep using the word serendipitous, but I just feel like it really is just like a very powerful theme, this journey that I'm on right now. But like, I really needed like a friend.
This is one way to treat a person who's not friends with them.
Come along, afterthought. Oh yeah, Kai, I forgot you're on the show.
Ignored, guys.
No, I love and appreciate you too. No, but that was something which I thought was really cool. Like you just like I needed like a very particular friend, and you just like appeared down the street. Like here I am.
know we literally lived like
down the street.
A few homes away from each other.
Yeah,
we're in the
I didn't know
downtown.
that. I didn't know that.
So
Your first apartment, or
first apartment right
okay.
downtown on 2nd Street.
Okay.
You were probably, one push away on the skateboard.
Yeah, literally.
So we were right there on the same block. We had a mutual friend, Mike, through the climbing gym and all that, who I met. I actually don't remember how I met Mike. Mike is a blur how I met him. I feel like I just met him out drinking in Troy one night, and he didn't even live in Troy, and it was very confusing.
Right.
But he was like, "Oh yeah, I climb too," and then I don't even remember the first time I met you. Actually, I'm sure it was through Mike.
I think it was through Mike, and I think that we met outside at Franklin Alley.
Oh snap! Yeah.
I think that was, we did it a bunch of times, but I think that was the first, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because then you and I built a friendship entirely separate of Mike and I's relationship, and like you and I hung out a lot because we were way more accessible with each other and things like that. But it's funny how you say like serendipitous, because I totally agree. I feel like so many friends I have just been, they're in the right part in their life. I'm in the point in my life where we can totally like actually communicate effectively. Like conceptually, we can understand each other, and that's been really cool. Because now we're here all these years later. You knew I was in the engineering industry at that time period. You were, in the car industry at that time, and now we're all doing our own thing. All these years later,
Yeah.
and we're in different states right now, recording this episode. That's fucking crazy.
It's really crazy. It's very cool. And this trip of me driving across the country, there absolutely were times that I could have done this before. And, for whatever reason it was, I need to stay where I am longer. This isn't the right time. I should be doing this instead of that. This particular like time of me doing it, it just was like, oh, I saw an opportunity and I went for it. I just like automatically just like jumping into a body of water with a very strong current. It was just like, I'm going to do this. And the commitment was like almost waiting there for me.
Wow. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We were talking about this, again, to go back to the word we've used a lot lately. Serendipitous, though. It does feel like when you lean into the things that you're passionate about and that you care for, truly lean into them without expectation, and you kind of throw caution to the wind as it was, that you're rewarded in these serendipitous moments in the way that it almost feels kind of like fate. Like everything's working for you. Like, yeah, there's hiccups, there's stresses, there's all these things. But then you get this like crazy reminder that this is the correct thing. You're on the right path. Keep going. And it just is like enough fuel to keep going through all the hardship till you get that next reminder.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Yeah, because like you're saying, you could have done this at any point in the last few years, but you're doing it now.
Yeah. I mean, well, the most recent, like last time that I was like, okay, I'm gonna drive out west. I'm gonna do this thing that I've been talking about doing for as long as I can remember in my life. It's like, all right, this is when I'm gonna stop working my job, and then I'm just gonna go. And within a 2-week period, one of my closest, dearest, longest friends was like, let's do this. Let's start a company together. And same 2-week period was me getting nominated for an award in my industry, me being offered a keynote in the area that the company that we were forming was going to be in. It was like, okay, like I really, really want to just pack up my stuff and drive around the country for several months and have like no responsibility to anything at all and be uncomfortable and expand from this very like compressed state that I've been in.
Yeah, yeah.
But also like, when else does one of your best friends and you align to start a company, and these external sources are like, yeah, do this. We're all in alignment for this. But I'm also like very present and aware of the fact that if I did that trip, this trip, then just like if I did this trip all the other times that I wanted to, like obviously number one, I would not be here in this moment.
Yeah.
But it would be just a completely different thing.
Yeah, different experience of
Yeah.
it entirely.
Did you have any external forces for your decision? Like that, okay, my friend is asking me for this, starting this business, but you're really doing well in your, at your job, right? And I'm sure you thought about it for a while, but then was there any external like influence that made you go with that decision?
Yes. I mean, there's always a bunch.
Right.
I thrive in the environment that my last job was. Like working in a car dealership, it is brutal. It is high stress. It's extremely long hours. It's it's everything that you are told that you should avoid in a job. That is a car dealership.
That's the job you took, huh?
At least like the service side. But I also I love it. I really do. But it also it takes a toll. It does. And I got to a certain point where it was, we spoke about your almost probable certain future. And it's like, what does tomorrow look like? Well, tomorrow looks a whole lot like what today looked like. And today was missing a lot. I didn't fulfill on the things that are important to me, like the core me. If I spoke to little Josh and little Josh looked up at me and said, what would little Josh say to me about how I'm living my life right now? And he probably would have a lot of questions that I wouldn't want to answer.
Yeah.
That's
hard. The childlike, the values you had as a child, the things that sparked joy for you and interest, the things you were passionate about that you couldn't wait to grow up because you knew you were going to live your life in this specific way when you could get out, your parents' house or the situation you're in, school, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like that kid that was like, nah, my life is going to be fucking cool. Or it's going to be like whatever.
Right.
And then, to be at odds when you're not living that life that you so dreamed about. It's got to be rough.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. I mean, we all do this. We all make concessions. We all make agreements, these quiet little agreements that well, I want to do this thing. This thing is important to me, but today I won't do that. I won't fulfill that thing. I won't work towards that thing. and a lot of the times the because that you follow that up with is to its like the true core value of it is it's because I'm okay with all this other stuff. I've allowed myself to be okay with all these things that I'm just actually not okay with.
Yeah. 100%.
And like what you know quotes way better than I do, but most men lead lives in quiet desperation. Is it Thoreau?
Yeah, it's Thoreau.
All right, I nailed it.
Well, you asked him, so basically it didn't nail it.
I didn't nail it.
I'm just lying and saying yes. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely Thoreau. Somebody's gonna look it up. That's not Thoreau. What are they talking about? Walden Pond.
But it's such a true thing.
100%.
Yeah. So, like me, the and I think it's really important to focus on this for a moment. Being in whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, it's a lifestyle that you're in, that you accept, but you're not content with, is something that I think we all deal with at some point or for most of our lives.
Yeah.
And
100%.
It's so important to have that really uncomfortable conversation with yourself where you can be forgiving with yourself of saying like, I understand why you are doing this, why you have done this. And it's okay if you continue this because you've done it this long and you can continue to do it this way.
Yeah.
And what would it look like if you changed to do something that you would be like fulfilling on something?
Yeah.
Whether or not you achieve whatever this, if there is, like this grandiose goal or this dream or whatever's at the end of, your road, you still have the opportunity to go for that.
Yeah. You know what it sounds a lot like to me? It sounds a lot like self-love. Like it's understanding you're making concession for yourself to realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were certain circumstances that led to arrive to this position, and that's okay. And it's perfectly okay if I continue down that direction. But now I have to make a choice because I realize I'm here because of certain reasons. Do I continue down the path or do I pivot?
Yeah.
And both answers are fine as long as you're willing to recognize the pros and cons and what you have to sacrifice to do either or. Because then you're empowered by just realizing your options. You're no longer deceiving yourself necessarily. I don't think we do it purposefully or intentionally, but there does seem to come a time in most people's lives where they realize I continue to be this person forever or I do something to change. Yeah, and they could come in a lot of mini moments. This is specifically like a huge moment. Maybe you're like thinking of quitting your job, maybe you're thinking of starting a business, maybe you're thinking of picking up a new hobby, breaking up with somebody, divorcing, starting a relationship, whatever, these big kind of milestone moments that we have in our lives that seem to affect the rest of it. Because like you said, we live in this moment of basically the reality right now is what we're probably going to get tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then once you start realizing that, you're like, oh shit, wait, have I been living my day the way I'd want to live it? Yeah, Kai, you talk about this. Who was the guy, the book you read, who's saying like, if you could have the perfect day, what would you do?
Oh, there was a 4-hour work week, Tim Harris. Yeah. Did you?
I've read it, and that question broke me. That question broke me because I didn't know how to respond to it, and somebody else had asked me, if you could live one day of your life, if you could pick one day that you've already lived and just live that over and over and over again, you can't change anything. You just get to experience that one day. What would it be? And sitting there, and I was trying to think of like monumental moments in my life that like I was so joyed, and then it was like, oh wait, like I robbed myself of joy.
Right.
I am the thief of
heavy.
joy, and it was like, you know what? It's probably a day that I don't remember and would never remember because everything was just okay. And that's like you can kind of like, I think that's also important when you're looking back at a relationship because when relationships end, you kind of like miss like all of that experience kind of just evaporates.
Yeah.
And you're left with these like a few moments of like absolute joy. A lot of them are like at the very beginning of the relationship,
Right.
the honeymoon phase, the magic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then there's like a couple like big moments, and then there's like whatever happens at the end, the things that you ruminate
Yeah.
over.
That's so
But
true.
like, you know, like the great days where you wake up and you hug in the morning and like you split and you go off to work. And
You're getting me emotional over here with the beer, man. This guy, you know, yeah.
And we don't need to focus on relationships, but like in
Josh,
you know, like
I'll take you back. Yes, Josh, yes. You
Hard
have
for me
me.
here
like there's
for the
there's-
camera.
there's something so very powerful about, you know, like days that you don't, you really want to take stock and be present to each one
Yeah.
of the days that you have, because you don't know how valuable they are. Like today is a very special day for me because like I'm out here in Phoenix. I've traveled across the country. I'm here with my friend that I haven't seen
Yeah.
in so long. I've known you for hours,
Yeah.
and I feel like you're going to be a friend for the rest of
Oh,
my
man.
life. Like immediately, it's like, boom, we're buds. We're doing a
exactly.
podcast. Like
Yeah.
this is great. If this was every single day of my life, I wouldn't appreciate each one of these moments.
Yeah.
And I think that like as we go through our lives, we really need to spend more time focusing on like the little joys, the things
Yeah.
that brings us happiness.
Oh, 100%.
You have to.
Yeah.
And also, you know, while I was listening to all this, like what spoke to me the most is that the first step, always, the most important thing is a continuous evaluation of your life. Otherwise, you can't even get to the point where you can judge, or you know, you can judge the importance of your life, whether or not you should move on or stay, you know, where you are. This is all impossible if you don't evaluate your life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to make,
Right.
and again, when you say judge your life, right, you're making an assessment against it. It's not the atypical way we think about judgment that it just has a negative connotation.
Yeah.
A judgment can be a good thing. You're like, you assess and you realize that has value and you keep it, right? Or you can assess something and say, oh, that has negativity, and then maybe shift it. But kind of like what you were speaking to, Josh, that you can truly only appreciate these moments because you've had some shitty ones. Like, you've had some fucked up, hard stuff of being lost, being totally like, what am I doing with my life? Who am I? You know, really rough shit that the three of us have absolutely 100% gone through. But I think that's critical for people to understand. We've only arrived at this moment
Yeah.
because we suffered that. You know, like we were talking about earlier, even using the word suffer, I want to use that word more often because it usually can mean a good thing comes from it. Like, sometimes you have to suffer things to get a better thing out of it. So now when I go through moments of suffering or discontent or frustration, I can realize like, okay, maybe this is just the soil for the good thing to come.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the manure to grow something beautiful.
Yeah.
This fucking sucks. For sure this sucks, but
Right.
maybe I can have a bit different mindset about it, and it makes it more tolerable.
Well, like
Yeah.
that's like in order for an arrow to go far, it has to get pulled backwards. And so every time that I'm like in one of those like really, really crappy moments, which is usually prolonged over X amount of time, where it's like, oh, this struggle,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. I have to deal with myself on top of all these other things, and I don't want to deal with myself, and I don't want to deal with these other things. But it's like, this is it. This is like the struggle. If I can get through this struggle, this suffering, this is only going to propel the next thing.
Yeah.
And one of the we'll call it like a dirty joy that you learn like when you're engaged in like entrepreneurship or just like a lot of life change is that a lot of times the result of your labor is failure. And you have to be able to, I mean, it's something that you learn and everybody learns it on their own, but there's failing backwards and there's failing upwards.
Yeah.
And
It's a real concept.
it's this crazy thing, and both are okay. I think it's so important to like reiterate, like removing like make wrong from things, because it's okay to fail at stuff.
Yeah.
I think you need to fail at stuff. You have to fail at stuff. Fail a lot, because that teaches you, not just how to separate it from your identity, that this thing failed. I'm not a failure. I took steps. They didn't produce the results that I wanted. I will either just not do that anymore, or I will try it a different way. I'll take new action steps, and that's either going to produce results I want or not.
Yeah, I would argue the man who has success not from failing is lucky. He's not experienced. He's lucky.
Lucky in the sense that he has achieved.
He's chosen the right path.
But he's actually opposite to lucky, because he's never going to learn what it is like to fail.
Yeah,
right.
In that sense, right? It's not this powerful, overarching kind of full concept of what it is to have growth.
We've talked about this a lot. That a lot of times people who are gifted, once they fail, a lot of them fail to ever come back to where they were, because they've never experienced the failures before. They don't know how to cope with the failures.
So I'm taking from this that I'm not gifted.
Dude, I don't think any of us are gifted. How do you think you end up on a podcast like ours? Like, come on, dude. But no, I mean, I think none of us at this table are inherently or naturally gifted in that way. But I personally think that's the vast majority of the population, right?
Oh,
it
yeah,
is.
dude.
We're not outliers. We're the fucking
95% of the
We're most people in that regard. But we're still doing what we love. And there is a huge difference. And I'm not shitting on people that aren't doing their own thing. There's a lot of people that do not find fulfillment or any type of happiness. And again, not that happiness is everything. I can only use that word because I don't have a more complex word to use that people would understand to describe what we have. Happiness is as close as it gets. What really it is, though, is feels like we're heading in a direction, going somewhere we want to go. Like, we know we want to go there. We know this is the path. Yeah, maybe I'm not familiar with the rocks and the trees and the bumps in the road along the path, but I know goddamn well this is getting me to the destination. And I love every moment of it.
Right.
All the stumbles, all the failures, all the sleeping at night, being lost, not knowing where I am. In some regard, I still know that I'm arriving to the destination because I'm applying myself. And the hardships are part of that. I love that aspect.
I mean, this path is not, doesn't guarantee any success or final, goal, but we're happy, fulfilled, because this is the path that we want to be on, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. Yeah. But a lot of people who have even, six-figure jobs, whatever, successful based on our societal standards, a lot of them are not happy because that's not the value they've never created for themselves. They're just living based on created values, the values that society, highly praise, right? That's why they're not happy. Even if they make $500,000, $1 million a year, they can show off in front of people, all that, but deep down, they're not happy. They're not fulfilled.
You got a beautiful wife, kids, got cars, got houses. Yet, for some reason, you still feel a need to go cheat on your wife, not spend time with your kids, do everything to avoid all these things that make you happy, but you're running away from them because actually, you didn't choose them. They were thrust upon you to arrive to happiness. They were nothing you actually necessarily want. And again, something can still be good even if you didn't choose it to have it. But there's a different value and a different condition of the quality of good.
It's like finding a treasure with a map somebody created for you. Like, I'm not going to be happy with that because I've never imagined or dreamed of finding or getting it for myself. I've never dreamed it. But somebody made the map for me. Oh, there's treasure at the end. You got to go there. You just go there because it sounds good. But then not necessarily you're going to be happy with it because it's not something you created for yourself, right?
Right. That treasure, you didn't choose it.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody chose it for you.
Exactly. Well, it's also like arriving at the treasure, and then you find out it's a goddamn Klondike bar. I hate Klondike bars. But that guy's like, yo, Klondike bars are the shit. Are you kidding me? Who was on a Klondike bar?
Right.
That's what you're doing. You don't even know what you're arriving at.
Exactly.
But then you get there, and this is why people, I think, oftentimes we call it a midlife crisis, because typically this is when you reach critical mass of all these things. You know, typically at this point, you're married, you have a house, you have a steady job, you have kids. You've reached critical mass of all those good things, and you realize, wait, what? I don't even like chocolate. What am I doing? This isn't my shit. Which then leads to a lot of pain, because then you have to do something about it. You know, and a lot of people unfortunately seem to, you know, step out of the relationship, ignore their kids, just things I mentioned. You know, things that are considered a lot of negative things. They can't be honest, right?
Yeah.
Because the honest truth is like, I have to change all this.
Yeah.
I have to hurt people. I have to hurt myself.
It's scary.
Yeah, that's hard,
very
man.
scary.
Call for radical change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Because-
I mean, the three of us, we can all speak to radical change in our lives. I mean, Kai, man, you've been married. You know, you've exited relationships. I've exited relationships, not marriage, but we've all left our jobs. We've all started companies now. We're all doing something different. And I wanted to actually get into that subject because I think what you're doing is very cool. And to give more background, maybe you could talk about like, you've done so many different things, like musician, like now
We've
you're
lost
in
it
the...
all. Actually, we talked about it earlier.
Yeah, we did, but we lost it.
We lost
so
it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's talk about it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
like very, very quick recap. It's like where to begin.
Start, baby. Start.
Very start.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you're a musician, you're
So
a writer.
I've been I've lived the life of being a musician. I still am. That doesn't go away.
Right.
I've written a book. I have been published numerous times in a couple different magazines. I've written screenplays. I have spoken at events. I've done stuff.
Yeah, you said you were a
man.
keynote speaker recently, right, in Vegas? Is what
That
you were
was in
saying.
Vegas. That was in Vegas last year. Yeah, I gave a keynote speech on the future of funding and regulation for infrastructure projects.
Wow.
For EV, right? Electrical vehicles, or was it more...
It was fairly like general, but it was in relation to electric vehicles.
That's cool.
Yeah. So my background work-wise is for the past 10 years. I started as a automotive technician. I worked on Hondas. And I did that for like 4.5 years, was like hybrid certified. I worked on the cars. From there, I switched over to being a service advisor, which is if you go to a dealership, the person that you talk to, usually it's
Right.
the person that you yell at because they're telling you that you have to spend money that you don't want to spend
Right.
with time that you don't want to use. Like
Yeah.
it's a whole negative situation. But so I had that job for a while. I then left that to do consulting for dealerships because in those positions, it was like there's things that work, but there's things that don't. And there's no way to change this from inside of this machine. So I have to leave the machine and then take what I've learned, learn more, and then bring that back and help these people in these. That was really it. It was I want to help the people in these positions because I know the stress that they're experiencing. And if I can help one person, awesome. I've found starting a business, my first entrepreneurial venture, to be extremely confronting, very difficult. It's really easy to have an idea, a great idea, even as great as it possibly could be. I have figured out how to cure cancer. Awesome. You don't get to just snap your fingers and put that out there. You have to put it into this very specific mold for a business. And I just didn't have an education on that.
Yeah.
So I had some success, but not sustainable success. And so I found myself re-entering the car business. But all that knowledge and that impact and that growth while doing personal development courses, which was a whole other thing. But the greatest investment that I ever made, ever, period, ever, was in personal development, the best.
Yeah.
But came back into the business, quickly moved into management, managed 2 different stores. And then from there, I started talking to one of my oldest, dearest friends who is an engineer. And he was doing wireless, and he was also doing large-scale battery installations.
Okay.
And I understood the electric vehicles, and we were talking about the different sides of this industry. And it was like, well, we're seeing this. What are you seeing? And it's like, well, we're seeing this. And it's like, well, there's no connection here. And it's like, we started seeing areas to have these really great conversations. That was really it. It was just having conversations between two people that turned into, I think we can actually help these different businesses. So we started a company that works with different entities, whether it's a dealer, a school, a fleet owner, a municipality, where we help them with the electrical ecosystem, navigating it, managing it, whether it's converting your fleet over, assessing your site, what you need to do for upgrades, how to protect yourself, how to pivot your business. There's
It's multifaceted, it sounds
very
like.
multifaceted. There's a lot of people playing it right now because there's this really cool gold rush going on where people are like, oh, this is new. There's a lot of money involved. And when you have this new thing, you have a lot of people jumping in saying, this is great. Let's do more of this. But the really important stuff is usually in the margins, and that's getting left out. And so we started this company where it's like, let's focus on the margins. Let's try and help people not be victims of the predatory nature that occurs when something new happens.
I wanted to cut you off because I loved it from the get-go. You were saying help. You weren't saying like, look, there's money to be made. Look at this opening for money. It's legitimately about helping people. And to me, personally, I'd way be more ready to back somebody or a company or anybody that's trying to help. You know, not that's trying to take advantage and sees like an entryway to make some money. You know what I mean? Like we're not doing this for money. None of us are doing what we care about because of money. We're doing it because we're passionate. We see like there's a need, or maybe we can add real value to people's lives. And that's why we're pursuing the things we're pursuing, and we're on the path we are. I think so many people can easily trade. And again, I totally understand it, man. People can trade the sense of security through finances for themselves, for their values, for the things that, and again, this is not an absolute statement, this is my personal truth, but they trade basically they trade the good things for trash. You know, the real values, the real gold. They're willing to throw it away just to live a little more comfortably, to have the newest car model, to have a bigger house, you know, to be able to buy their girlfriend jewelry, to be able to buy themselves watches.
Yeah.
You know, all these things that represent I'm successful. I don't know anybody that's really done any good for the world that has purely chased that. I'm sure there's definitely people that have, absolutely, of course, but people that are like groundbreaking, whether they're thought leaders, inventors, or otherwise, they really see a problem and they want to help. It's not about the finances. And that's what propels you to keep you on this journey. Because, dude, if we were looking at like the money we're spending versus the money we're gaining, we would have quit week one. Yeah. It would make no sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, really sad thing about it, though, is that in this system, in this very capitalistic system, that is only possible to a certain degree of your size of the company, right? Once you have shareholders, oh no.
Well, on a even more micro scale level, you know, I there's no way that I would be able to have engaged in this company if I didn't really put my entire life behind it. You know, when I started in the automotive industry, I wasn't making any kind of money. I wasn't, but I knew that I needed to better myself, and I took the steps to grow, and I grew. And the thank yous didn't increase, but the paycheck did.
Yeah.
And when that paycheck grew, I was able to make better financial decisions. And a lot of people would look at, you know, what entrepreneurs do as being a poor financial decision, which is, I'm going to take this thing that I've saved up that I could do so much with. It's like, oh, I finally did it. Yeah. I can get a house. I can pay off my car. I can, you know, like we were joking about it. Like my TV fits in my book bag. You know, like I could go on this great vacation that, you know, could be this amazing thing. And it's like, no, I'm going to, eat oatmeal. And my one treat to myself is going to the coffee shop. I'm going to do that. And my life is going to be just trying to achieve this dream. So like, if I didn't have that little nest egg that I worked, I earned that money to live on, to have this kind of existence, which a lot of people aren't able to do that, which I think is like a horrible, horrible thing where you can have, there are people in our mindset that have that desire to expand beyond what their capability is. And they just don't have any of the resources to do that. Yeah. And I think it's just so, like, once again, there's this presence. There's this, you need to be present to where you are and what you're doing. Like the day that I wake up where it's like, I don't feel like making phone calls. I don't feel like reading that 138 page PDF on the thing that I pretty much know what it's going to be about, but maybe there's like a little thing to extract from it. There's a little bit of value and I just have to do the work to find it. I love that. It's so easy to just be like, nah, I'm not going to do that. But then it's like, wait a minute. Like we were talking about this earlier and we didn't finish it, but, there is a sea of people that would trade their best day for your worst at the drop of a hat without question or fail. And so I think it's just so important to just take stock constantly with where you're at and what you're up to.
100%.
That will move you forward.
Yeah.
And it's also very important that as you're moving forward, you make sure that you bring the people that are in your circle and you do what you can. Like it's constantly like, I know it's a very cliche thing, but like give yourself away, give it away, help whoever you can, whenever you can.
I think almost all value in my life has come from the concept of giving. Absolutely. Like even every good relationship I have, I mean, even my relationship with you guys, it's been from a place of, I mean, with any relationship, right? You sacrifice, you make time to go see with people, spend time with people, even if you don't want to, even if you're tired. We've all done that because we care genuinely about the other person. You can give yourself in so many ways more than fiscally. You don't even have to do it financially. Me personally, I like covering like people's tabs and things just because I was in a job where, I'm an engineer. I don't need this money. You see me, I'm a minimalist, man. I had a fucking van. I lived out of a van. Yeah. Who cares? Whatever, man. It's just money. But for the people that, like you mentioned earlier, that may be in poorer jobs or can't afford things, you can still pursue things that align with your values that don't require money. They require your time. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The minimum of everything is your time. But I think, people need to realize that as disempowered as you feel, because maybe you can't start a podcast, maybe you can't start a fucking business with your buddy, maybe you can't be an entrepreneur, but you can take steps to still take control of your life and express your values and who you want to be. And I'll tell you, eventually you will step out of that and you'll have things like this. Before I even did this, before I quit my job, I was living with roommates. We had up on the board 365 days till Coco's farewell. That's my nickname. Everybody calls me Coco. And so, like, there's certain experiences that make you uncomfortable. And you're like, oh, this does not line up with my values. And eventually it'll lead to the point where you can leave. But you also have to do some footwork and legwork to realize, like, okay, I'm sick of this. Like, am I going to do something about it? Or am I going to sit here and stick around? I think it's funny, our industry, actually, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, you're working on machines. The car is a machine. Tool and semiconductor, it's a machine. It's simple parts put together to make a complex thing. But a lot of the gripes I heard with, from Mike and from you, it's so funny because we have the same issues with the people we work with. People that have decided that they're unsatisfied and sick of their lives, sick of their jobs, but won't do anything, won't quit their jobs. They'll just have a negative attitude and ruin it for everybody else and make things more difficult. That's the risk you run. Yeah. If you choose not to chase your dreams or chase your ideals.
Soul death.
Yes. You become a drain on everybody. Yep. Not just your coworkers, on your family, your friends, your loved ones. You become so far from who you actually are, you just become representative of a human. Not even human.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been that person.
Oh, dude, yeah.
You know,
too.
like
I've been there.
it's hard not to be. Yeah, it's really hard not to be. But like Kendrick Lamar, of all the people that I'll misquote Kendrick Lamar, I'll get him right. You know, like, there's levels to it. You know, like we're taught and trained. Like what's the thing that we pursue first? Level 1, it's money. And then there's all those, you know, all those people that get to the end of that finish line and they get the money. All those people, what do they tell us still in the race? They go, once you have money, that's not it.
Yeah.
Time is the thing that's important.
Yeah.
And then the people that have time, well, it's like, well, who has time? And it's like, well, there's 2 types of people that have time. People that aren't doing anything and people that did so much that they earned it. Are they both really that happy with their time? And the answer usually is like, no, still.
Yeah.
Because this whole concept of like happiness is, there isn't just this one size fits all happiness. It's this snowflake, personalized, the thing that will make you happy could never make me happy. I mean, it probably would be similar in a way.
Again, it speaks to the fact that, you know, we're just living by the imposed ideas. Again, I mean, it comes back to the idea, right? You've never created your own language. You've never created your own values. Up to a certain point of realization, wait a second, I'm unhappy. What's going on here? I've done everything I was told to do. Go to good college, get educated, get a good job. Why am I unhappy? Because that's not why you wanted it in the first place, buddy. That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's why it is so important to continue. What we talked about after the second mushroom trip, right? Jesus. The truth is a moving target. We cannot settle with it. You know, we have to continuously evaluate our values. Make sure, because this is not fucking, you know, one of the hundreds of field trips. This is a one fucking life. You gotta be as cautious as you can, right? I mean, that's the sort of attitude you have to take. Not just sit back and, you know, do what you're told to do.
Yeah. I want to say, when you say cautious, you mean the observationally cautious, that you're aware of your surroundings, right? Not cautious in that you're afraid to do things.
Right.
Cautious that you take in your surroundings,
Right.
the time and place you live, and then you make a choice based off that. That type of caution, which by the same token can be risk, right? That's funny. You know, we say, I'm cautious, I'm risky. Those can both be very same thing. You know, like you're still taking an evaluation of the things and then making a decision based off that.
Well, the most empowering and terrifying thing that you learn in life is that your life is yours to create. And that your life is a
Wait, do not put that on. Josh, don't put that on.
I know.
What are you doing, dude? Like, I was having a good time on this interview. It's done.
Dude,
you're saying I'm responsible for this shit?
You're responsible.
I don't like this.
It's your choice. It is.
Real piece of work.
To the camera.
I was in a room that got silenced when one person said to another person, your life is a direct representation of what you don't want to deal with. And I'll say that again.
Never.
Your life is a direct representation of what you don't want to deal with. And
that's hard because it's mostly negative statement, and negative in the way of like non-positive. Again, fucking wrong words, connotations. I can't say this.
No, it's a very make wrong statement.
Yeah, it's hard because that statement, by definition, right? There's always going to be an infinite amount of things that I just don't want to deal with, right? But there's only so much things I want to deal with. So it's interesting to perceive things from the opposite of like, I've chose my life because I don't want to deal with all that other stuff.
Right.
Which is like infinite amount of
infinite.
things.
Right.
If you can eliminate that make wrong and that guilt that you have on there and just go like, oh, you know, like I haven't done all this research on this thing, or I didn't fill out the application for that job that I wanted, or I didn't walk up to that girl or that guy because of da-da-da, because I didn't want to deal with the rejection. I didn't want to deal with the fear. You know, there's all these things that you don't want to deal with.
Isn't it crazy? And not to cut you off, man, but
Yeah.
That feeling, that fear of rejection, it just applies to.
We talked about it.
So much more than just even like, oh, that person's attractive. It literally like
that's the
everything
thing,
in
though.
your life, like the
It is-
trepidation to approach things. We're so petrified to just
Yeah.
engage. And that's the only thing that can actually change your life is the moment you start to engage, right? That's the only thing times something can actually shift is when you give something you've never given before, right? Like how can you expect to ever have anything different in your life if you're not giving anything different? Like really, can you expect your life to ever be different if you don't ever change anything? Well, we're so ready to fall under that spell, that siren song that eventually it'll be better. I'm not doing anything different. How is this going to change? Something going to show up with a magic wand and fix your life?
Yeah.
And the thing is, even if that person did, I bet you wouldn't even realize. You'd be like, that dude's crazy. You know what I mean? We've given these opportunities all the time. But if you're not in the place where you can even understand and realize what's in front of you, how can you ever even say yes? You don't even realize they're asking you a question.
Yeah. I think, courage is one thing for sure. That's important. But I think more important thing is that a good understanding of what it is. Like when we're talking about life decisions and even that small decision, like whether or not should I talk to the girl, the rejection we're talking about, we talked about it during dating, right?
Yeah.
Rejection usually is not you, right? I mean, if you have this understanding, right? I mean, along with others, dealing with the girls as a guy, you would never have that fear of rejection. It's completely illusion. You don't have to have that, fear of rejection at all. But anyway, the point is, encouragement is one thing, but not encouragement. Courage is one thing, but also you have to understand the process good enough to make the right decision. It's not only your heart, it's not only your courage, right? You have to understand the process.
Yeah, you
That's
got to
what I'm
realize
getting at.
we're all playing a game.
Yeah.
The game varies wildly. And sorry, this just reminds me of something that we were mentioning earlier about these concepts about language. You said we don't choose our language, we don't choose our values initially, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't. That's the fucking cool thing about friendship and relationship. I can tell you what my values are, my language. I can use the same words that somebody outside of this conversation they'll hear, and they'll have a different meaning entirely.
Yeah.
They will totally. My ideas can be entirely misrepresented. When I say something in this setting, you guys know what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't need explanation to a great degree. That's because we've spent time together, though. We have experience. You can realize, like, who I am. I can have a sense of idea of who you are. We know each other based off that. And again, that's why relationship's so important. And unfortunately and fortunately, we live in a world where you can have media readily available to you. And it's so easy to like listen to something. I do it too. We all do it. I hear something and I say, well, I know I totally disagree with what they're saying, or like, that fucking asshole, can you believe they just said that? They're so ignorant, so unintelligent.
Right.
But really, I don't know that person, so I just don't understand. And that's, to me, why having relationships is so important, because if you're going to set and create your values and your ideals and your ideas in a society, you need other people, because without that, you probably feel crazy. It'd almost be impossible to create your own ideals and values outside of a relationship. How do you have somebody that can even understand you? How can you even understand yourself unless you're saying something and somebody's like giving it back to you? It just seems absurd, right?
Well,
I appreciate you guys. I guess I'm saying I appreciate you.
Yeah, and I think that that falls in line with what we were talking about earlier. We talked a lot about things earlier. I keep saying that. In this podcast.
We said that all.
We've been talking all day.
But
and what you were speaking about with courage and about friendship and the things that motivates us and our fulfillment and how we move forward in these things. And I just can't speak enough about how important it is to, like when people are listening to this and they're saying, I want to have the freedom and the ability. I want to create driving across the country like Josh. I want to create starting a company like all those guys. I want to create this new thing that's occurring here, which isn't the norm. How do I do that?
Yeah.
And there's so many different things that go into it, and a lot of people will point to books and all this different work to do. And I think the first place to point to is your friends. And it's that, prop your friends up that want to expand themselves. You expand yourself. Find people that are doing things. I did not have the courage on my own to live the life that I'm living right now. And I 1,000% can openly say that. I had dreams to live a life that I could not fulfill upon myself because I was guided by fear. And we can have a whole discussion on where that fear comes from.
Yeah. It's different for everybody,
It's
right?
different for everyone. But my life was directed by fear. And I drew strength by my friends. And I was and have always been very intentional with my friendships. If you and I are friends, everything of mine is yours.
Yeah,
100%.
I love that. I feel the same way, man. I really
Always,
do. I mean,
right?
that's why we're friends. I think we know, like, we have it similar. All of us. I mean, really.
You're in the group now. You're cool.
Oh God, he's gonna start crying. You know what? He's out, man. He's crying. Can you believe this?
Yeah. But I mean that transcends that. You and your friends transcends everything.
Dude, I know. So we had another friend out from Colorado, and Marty. It was me, you, and Marty were hiking. You know, I was saying to you guys, I was like, it's amazing when you have a really good relationship with people that you love and you trust. I feel so much like, fuck you, I got my friends. Like, I feel at home, like so comfortable and just so like at peace and content knowing like these people accept me. Like they know me more than they accept me. They know me, and in spite of that, they accept me. You know, because a lot of times, like we're all crazy in some ways. Like we all have like ridiculous ideas, our views of reality. But my friend, he makes acceptance. Like he's like, I can't understand your reality completely. Like we disagree on a lot of things. You still make an effort to try and understand. It's like even if I can't understand, like that's fine. You're my friend.
Right.
You know, you make room for it.
The authenticity that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
That caring circle that you create yourself gives you that comfort bubble to be yourself authentically.
Yeah.
And then from there, then it's up to you to do something about it.
Yeah.
But like if you want like a launch pad, it's friends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also your family. I mean, but that's relationship that you have to curate and cater.
Right?
Yeah.
It's it.
Yeah. I mean, my family, I've got blood family, but my family is my friends. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that's my family. And again, I'm fortunate that a lot of the family members I've had, I can build friendships with. Right. But again, if we didn't see eye to eye on things, like I'm not worried about it because I know there's people out there that I can see eye to eye with on some key points. And I also love having friends that have different views on things because it makes me realize like, shit, man, if I was in your biology and I had your experiences, of course I would believe what you believe. Of course, based on your experience and everything else like that, your physiology, that makes sense that you believe that. And when I can realize that and like let my ego go and be like, oh man, like that's not really, there's no really like truth claim I can make. Like it's very postmodern to say, but their experience is their reality. Like, yeah, we agree on some concepts, but the experience is always going to take precedence over the concept for most people when it comes to forming values and beliefs, which is why we, for lack of a better term, preach experience on this podcast. Like, get the experience. Yeah. It's so easy to agree with people conceptually.
Yeah. Even disagree,
so
man.
Goddamn easy.
Just scoffing at their ideas is so easy to do it, But I think, you talked about really good things about being friends, but I think one of the biggest things is most important thing is to just the willingness to understand each other, right? I mean, when you're not friends with someone, I don't fucking care what you're saying. Even if it's true, I don't really care. I don't know you, like, you know what I mean? But between friends, I mean, Not to say that that's how I treat people.
He's a real piece of work.
General,
That was looking good. Just flew right in there.
Cut that out. Cut that out.
Yeah.
Extreme examples, but between friends, real friends, I think that's the really starting point. Like, you are willing to understand your friend.
Yeah, you're willing to bend your reality
Yeah,
to
exactly.
understand theirs.
And that's the beauty of it, right? That's why it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
The
I think that's why it's also important, though, to come from a place of realizing, like, there's no absolutes.
right.
Things are relative. When you realize that, it kind of, like, softens your ego to be like, I have room to understand you because things are no longer binary.
Yeah.
They're not black and white.
Right.
And when they aren't black and white, I have so many more variations to experience you and understand you.
Yeah.
And that's, again, why I feel like the best thing I've told you this, Kai, I've told so many people this, I feel like the most valuable thing I've ever had in my life are the friendships and the relationships I've made. I would not be the person I am today or had any type of success if it wasn't for the friendships and the relationships I've built. I'm not naturally gifted at anything. I'm not. I mean, we can all say this. We can all say the negative things about ourselves. But I guess it's just to emphasize that relationship, to me, is probably like the highest value in my life. Relationship with people.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. And that, there's a lot of things that embody relationship. Like, there's suffering, there's struggling. We've all had heartbreak. We've all had the friends that have fucked us over, but we still love. We've all had that. But then you get moments like this. This is like the height of beautiful friendship. You know what I mean? Like, we're all here. None of us are rich. None of us are successful by this world's, or sorry, not this world's, but this culture's standard.
I'm successful.
Well, when we talked about, like, capitalistic, none of us got like fucking $1 million in the bank or anything crazy.
We're not talking to Musk right now. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not successful by the standards of capitalism.
Yeah.
But I feel so successful because of you guys. Like, I'm like, yo, look at my friends. Look at my friends on the podcast. Yo, check them out. Like, that makes me fucking stoked. I'm be like, yo, fucking check out this episode.
Yeah.
I'm just, I've just had a couple beers and I just want to cry now. But yeah, it's good, man. I'm excited. Look at this guy. He's laughing.
This has been good. Yeah. So I feel like we should end this on like some final capstone.
Yeah. I would love to
Josh,
do it.
capstone us.
Our first guest.
This is going to be the title. So it's going to be the theory of.
Could be the last guest
whatever
for a
you
while.
discuss.
Man, we covered a lot.
We did.
We covered a lot, and I felt like most of what we covered, we only scratched the surface.
Yeah. I mean, that's the bad thing about, like, we have so many topics to talk about, right?
Yeah,
that's why you need relationship, man.
Well, we talked about journeys. And
Okay,
we talked about
to sum up all this. I'm sorry, but like, what is your ideal type?
Let's get to the important stuff. Women. No. Okay. Yeah. So let's hear it, man.
But
so you've listened to us.
Yeah. I've listened to you guys.
We do traditionally the episode's always a theory of blank and then fill in the blanks. So.
Well, I think this could be a theory of Josh.
Yeah, theory of Josh Robin. In this episode, by the way, everybody. I mean, you're already listening to it. Will be free for everybody. It's not gonna be cut down or reduced. I don't think there's any reason to do that, so people can.
We
have
lost
the full
like 10
experience.
seconds, by the way. I forgot to tell you. In between, about
we gotta record
39
all of
minutes in. For some reason, I've never seen this before, but it just GarageBand stopped recording for like 5. I noticed it.
Was I speaking when that happened?
Was you, by the way?
Oh, then it doesn't
useless.
matter.
You've heard it
before.
That's for me to talk on.
Yeah, come on, it's good.
I would say that this is a theory on the journeys that we set for ourselves. And I think that everybody's journey looks different. And I think everybody's journey is okay. Yeah. And I think that if you know that, or you feel that your journey looks different than the journey that you're on, then...
So we're talking about the final note, a theory of...
Episode title.
Yeah.
Well, what?
Yeah, episode title.
Episode title, yeah.
You get to choose one.
Theory of life is a journey.
Okay.
Theory of his life is a journey.
Life is a journey.
Josh
I like it.
Yeah. Yes. And that everybody's journey looks different. And some journeys are longer than others. Some, you know what the destination is. Some you figure out along the way. Some destinations change. Sometimes there never is a destination. It's just the journey. But what's so important is finding your alignment with that journey. And if you are living a life where you recognize that the journey that you're on doesn't feel right, it's not the one. You know, if you're sitting at that cubicle and you're like, I really feel like I should be breathing some mountain air. It's okay if you stay in that cubicle, but also maybe try and do something to get out there and breathe the mountain air. You know?
Yes.
It's once again, it's like your life is yours to create. Like, do it. Try it. It's okay if it doesn't work, but like for yourself, do it. Just try. Fail at it. Fail a bunch of times. If you keep failing, eventually the person that you become is not the person that started. And that's called growth.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Love it, man. Love it.
That's great.
And that's a great way to finish this episode. I think that was going to be the reel right there.
Yeah.
That was excellent,
100%.
man. Well, love you, buddy.
Love you too.
Glad you're here, man.
Thanks for
Me
coming,
too.
man. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Now we're going to enjoy the rest of our night. So,
Yeah.
see you guys.
Bye, guys. That's this week's episode of the Theory of Living podcast. Thanks for listening with us. We are Lafayette and Kai. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode.
And if you'd like to help support us, we have a Patreon page where you can subscribe for exclusive content.
Also, please share it with others who you think may find value in our discussion.
Leave a rating, a review, and please subscribe to the podcast.
Thank you again.
See you next time.